On today's episode, we're tearing into the San Jose Sharks' ongoing struggles as they extend their losing streak. Whether it's defensive breakdowns, missed chances, or just not getting the mental edge when it counts, we'll break down what's going wrong. Stick with us for a deep dive into the Sharks season so far and what they need to do to start turning this around. Welcome everybody, wherever you are, whatever you're listening from. I want to let you know that I appreciate you for joining me here today on episode 10 of the Teal Teardown Hockey Podcast. That's right, I can't believe it, right? We've had 10 episodes. It's been like a couple of months going strong, and if you've been listening since then, or if you've been listening caught on recently, I appreciate you being here. And yeah, thanks for joining me today talking about the San Jose Sharks. So let's get into it. The Sharks are not having a good time right now. It's been a couple of weeks. They're on a 7-game losing streak right now since their 6-game road trip. They're 0-6-1. Their only point came from that Edmonton game in overtime last week when they're in Edmonton. Things are not looking good at all. They have 28 goals against and 17 goals for during this drought. And the Sharks, well, their struggles seem to be the exact same thing of what it's been for most of the second quarter of the season, let's just say. They basically would have a lead. They tend to blow it in the third period, or they tend to turtle up and they allow a lot of the teams to have some space in their zone and kind of throw the puck around and score some goals. The Sharks seem to have the same problems where they just don't have that killer instinct. And any other team, maybe if they're a little bit farther along, if you're the Detroit Red Wings or the Buffalo Sabres, this is something to worry about. But because this is really the first year of the true rebuilding back to what the Sharks are going to become, I can't say this is too much of a terrible thing. We still a lot of rookie, players playing. I know we have a few, veterans playing that are actually pretty decent. But the thing is that we still have a lot of young players that are figuring out how to win, especially the ones that are going to be leading in the future. So another bright side is that the young players like Macklin Celebrini, Will Smith, and Shakir McMadulan, they are showing promise. Macklin Celebrini every day seems to be getting a lot better. He's, in terms of like the 200-foot game, defensively, offensively, he's everywhere. He hates to lose. You can really see that. Will Smith, while his development's a little bit slower, you can see that he's actually getting a little bit more confidence every game he plays. He shoots a lot more than what he was advertised for. I remember when the Sharks got him, he was actually more of like a playmaker, and we haven't really seen much of that. He does have good hands and good vision, but a lot of his passes haven't been like that, superstar, amazing ability kind of thing you're expecting of him. Obviously, he's still young. You'll probably figure that out, but that shot is lethal, and you can see that. And as he's playing along, he seems to be getting more confident to shoot more, which is a positive thing. Especially later this week when Will Smith and Macklin Celebrini have been put back together on a line with Zetterlund, and that line has been absolute magic together. Like, I just think whoever you put with Celebrini, it's going to be absolutely amazing. But this has been showing a lot of good promise. So, yeah, the downside is the Sharks still can't figure out how to win when they're down and out. Or the one thing is they don't give up, but they do not seem to have that killer instinct when they're up. When they are winning, or at least they're tied, they don't seem to know how to keep the gas full, the pedal on the gas really strong to keep the other team on their heels. They seem to always go back on their heels and always have to defend themselves in their zone. That's a big problem they got to figure out here. But I do feel like there is positivity to look forward to. Something that they do have to work on. Hopefully by the end of the season they might be better at that. But in terms of what we want to see, like the Sharks are a fun team to watch right now, and they're still tanking for another high draft pick. This is the expectation anyway. We weren't expecting to become like world beaters this season. So the positive side is these games are very, very close. 4 of the games are from 1-goal game losses of this last 7-game losing streak. Only 2 games were 2-goal game differentials that the Sharks lost by. And there was 1 game where the Sharks actually got blown out by the Vegas Golden Knights 6-3. So overall, the Sharks are in it. Although some of these games they were up and they ended up blowing the lead and losing by a goal or two. But there are positive signs. The Sharks still have that. They don't give up. They don't want to, fail for the fans when they're, especially been playing at home these last couple weeks. They go all out. They hate to lose. They don't have the horses right now. So this is something that we can at least look forward to, and hopefully that Borstowski can figure out. But as of right now, I wouldn't worry too much as long as the Sharks get a good draft pick at the end of the year and they show that improvement next year. But we still have about more than halfway through the season to go. The Sharks can also turn things around that way. But as of right now, in terms of the standings, they are second to last place. Chicago Blackhawks are last with 26 points, and the Sharks have 28 points. But the Sharks do have 2 more games played than the Chicago Blackhawks. They played 39 games. Chicago's played 37. Both teams seem to be struggling right now as the Chicago Blackhawks are on a 4-game losing streak. So it looks like it's going to be a battle for the basement between these two. And even then, you're not guaranteed that first overall pick. But the Sharks really got theirs, honestly, in Macklin Celebrini. I think that this kid is everything that the Sharks want and more. Any good complementary piece that's a high-round pick, I have a very good feeling is going to go well with the Sharks. Whether it is this first overall pick, Hagens, the one that's everyone's really hoping to get. Whether or not they get them, I don't really too worry about that. As long as the Sharks get the best player available and they move on, I'm very confident that the Sharks are going to build towards that. Anyways, so the Sharks are still dead last. At least they're more entertaining to watch this year. There's still a hope that they might be able to win the game. But the downside is that they are playing against really good teams. So, as if you listened to my scheduled win-loss last week, I assumed they're going to lose all 3 games, which they did. They're playing against like juggernauts. Since the last 2 weeks, the Sharks have faced teams that are in the playoff hunt or already on top of their division. So there's no team that the Sharks was capable of being since probably the last 3 weeks. I'm looking at the last 3 games. Maybe St. Louis is kind of struggling, but they've turned it around since they've hired Montgomery. Utah is actually in a playoff, chasing for the playoff spot right now. I mean, this whole last 3 weeks, they played Carolina, they played Winnipeg, Colorado, Edmonton, Vegas. Even Calgary's kind of stumbling, but they're still in a playoff spot, and they're fighting for that, and Vancouver. So just looking at these teams, the Sharks aren't expected to compete with them. The fact that they've kept them mostly 1-goal games is remarkable. What the Sharks need to do is just figure out how to not take the pedal off the gas, basically, when they're winning. And just to keep pushing and to limit those mental mistakes. A lot of bad passing going on in some games I'm seeing. A lot of really just sloppy clears. The Sharks really need to figure out, when they want to dump the puck, they do the dumbest thing and just, dump it in the center of the ice, and usually the point guy gets it. And that's really hurt them the last little while, just looking at these last few games. But, the Sharks really got to figure that out. And I would probably assume they will figure it out in due time. So let's just quickly look at the top scorers for the Sharks right now. Mikael Granlund is still first place with 34 points in 37 games. He's lost that point-per-game status over the last 2 weeks because the Sharks are struggling. But don't look far from now. Celebrini is climbing steadily. He's still a point a game. He's got 27 points in 27 games. He keeps tacking on an assist here, a goal here. He still keeps showing his leadership. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets to see in a couple of seasons whether what happens to Couture or not. I think Celebrini is the future captain without doubt. He's probably going to even win the rookie scoring race unless something happens. Hopefully nothing happens to him, but it's looking like he's already going to see probably the Calder Trophy. Michkov is going to be his biggest competitor right now, and they're actually going to face each other the next game, so we'll talk about that later in the podcast. But he's second place right now at 27 points in 27 games. Probably going to lead the team with points at the end of the season. We'll have to see. Eklund is third place with 27 points in 36 games. Now, he's missed a couple of games so far because he was injured during the game against Vancouver. He scored a goal, and then he ended up having to go. He took a bad tumble, and he's been off since then. It was from a hit, I believe. I forget who it was from, but he took a pretty bad hit, and Goodrow did stand up for him. But Eklund, the tough guy that he is, he scored the goal. He ended up scoring a goal right after that hit, and then he had to go be seen from the either concussion spot or we don't really know. It's an upper body injury. But, he's third place in scoring. Love the grade he's had so far. He's really come out of his shell this year. This season really is his breakout season. And fourth place is Fabian Zetterlund, 26 points in 39 games. He is the true emerging power forward of the future. He's not like the power forward you would have saw with Jerome McGinley 20 years ago, but he's the type of guy, he's very strong on the puck. He's got a lot of speed. He's not afraid to just drive to the net and score some really nice goals. I like his game, and he really has translated well with anyone you played with, whether it was Granlund, Eklund, and him in the line, or whether right now it's Celebrini, Smith, and him. Zetterlund's just really proven that he can be a top 6 kind of a guy who can score and play really good hockey all around the ice, and just a really tough player to play against. Really awesome to see. And fifth place, Jake Wallman. Now he's injured as well. He's missed a few games. Lower body injury, I believe. 31 games, he got 25 points. He's been the anchor for this team. So one thing we've noticed over the last couple of games that the Sharks really did miss Jake Wallman. Not only is he like a really good defensive defenseman, but he has shown some offensive upside. He's not like a puck mover the way Liljegren is, but he is someone that's very, very good on the puck, and just like he's just been such a good presence for the Sharks that losing him has been a big problem for the Sharks, and you can really see that. And number 6, the goal scoring stud for the Sharks, Tyler Toffoli. He's got 14 goals, 11 assists, 25 points in 39 games. Toffoli has been like a remarkable veteran, like a perfect pickup for the Sharks. The type of guy who has that winning pedigree. He's still capable of producing for this team, and also he's just like not the type of guy to really take an ego hit when he's like, taking a third line. Sometimes he's been dropped to third line this season. He'll play wherever you put him in, and he's going to play his heart out, and he's going to go to the net and drive hard, does what he does, and he scores pretty goals. So no complaints about him. And I'm going to round out the top 7 with Alexander Wenberg. He's got 18 points in 39 games. Solid third line type of center. Obviously, he's played in the first 2 lines just because we had to circle things around, and the Sharks do have depth issues. But Alexander Wenberg has been exactly where you want him to be when you need him. He scores at the right times. He's a great face-off guy. You see that Warsofsky still uses him on the first power play just because of his useful ability in winning the face-off. I mean, he's really riding high from that Utah game a couple of months ago when the Sharks came back from that 3-goal deficit, and Wenberg got all 3 assists based on those face-offs he won. But he's still riding high from that, and he's still a very solid guy. In a perfect team that's like a Stanley Cup contender, third-line center easily. And actually, I want to drop down to Luke Kunin as well. We'll go to the top 10. So Luke Kunin's got 16 points in 39 games. He's a Warsofsky favorite, but he has 10 goals. So he's actually 5th on the team for goals. He's actually, so far, there's 5 players with over 10 goals, which is actually remarkable considering how bad this team is on paper and throughout, like, if you just look at the whole team stats. But, Luke Kunin's got 16 points. He's a Warsofsky favorite. He's the type of guy you can plug him in, whether it's the 4th line, he's going to be an energy guy. He can play with the good star players in the top 2 lines. Ideally not recommended, but he can pot in some pretty big goals, so he's really useful to have anywhere else. I mean, if he was on any other team, I don't even think he'd have this many points. He'd probably be just using like that 4th line role. But you can see that he's very useful all around, and one of Warsofsky's favorite Swiss Army knives to use when things are going down. So, Will Smith is number 9 with 13 points in 31 games. Obviously, he's not having the season that Celebrini's having in terms of rookie season, but he is getting better each day. You can see his confidence grow. I mean, compared to what he was the first month, like, he was just not really afraid to play, but you can tell he was more hesitant to make plays. He didn't know what to do, so he definitely has a lot more confidence going in. And now with Celebrini back since the last 2 months, and now they're playing a little bit together, you can see he's a little bit more dynamic, a little more confident, tries a few more things, which is nice to see. And routing in the top 10 is Cody Ceci with 10 points in 39 games. Another revelation to have, like in most teams, he gets a lot of meme hate for the way he plays because he's kind of defensive liability. He has some offensive upside. He knows when to pinch. I've noticed that he's really good at that. He doesn't like pinch too hard all the time and causes a lot of 2-on-1s or anything like that. He knows the right time to do it. He does have some mental lapses sometimes defensively, but, considering the Sharks are not a contending team, he's actually been pretty solid as well. It's a solid veteran to have. And, he can put some offensive numbers out there. So that's what the Sharks are looking for so far this week. Let's tear into the games. All right, we're going to break down the first game, the Vancouver game, when he visited San Jose last Monday. In this game, Jake Wallman missed his first game of the week based on lower body injury he sustained from the game in Edmonton when the Sharks lost 3-2. He was listed as day-to-day, but he did miss the whole week. And after this game, Demko won 12 straight games against San Jose. This streak goes all the way back to April 2nd, 2019. So Demko is actually kind of a shark killer right now. Hopefully when the Sharks turn things around, even later in the season when they get revenge, hopefully the Sharks will be able to break this streak. Another thing is Astrov was starting in net, so I believe it was his 4th start for the Sharks this season. So that was a big deal for the Sharks. And it was Celebrini's first game against his hometown childhood favorite Canucks. So he was born in the San Jose area, but his dad because he was worked for professional sports teams for basketball. Celebrini did grow up in Vancouver, so he's actually more of a Vancouver Canucks fan. It was pretty cool to see. He said it was surreal to be playing, just in the practice rink for Vancouver because he spent a lot of his life there as a kid practicing, and the idea that he actually started a game, he said it was a surreal thing. But the game was much more of a wake-up call for him, to be fair, after this. So After this game, the Sharks did lose 4-3. It was a close loss for the Sharks, but the Sharks really weren't in it, if you really say it, because they did have a lead in the beginning, but then Vancouver kind of took over. The Sharks kind of dug back into it. At this point, the Sharks did lose 5 games, 8 of their last 9 to be specific, and they did make a lot of key mistakes and missed opportunities in the second period that did cost them mainly. But it was also the loss of William Eklund. So let's just break down what happened here. So Eklund would make it 1-0. He did, but just before then, he took a pretty big hit from Tyler Myers. He went down. You could tell he was definitely struggling from that hit. But even after that, just to show how much of a warrior he is, he went back into it and he ended up scoring the first goal of the game and a power play goal. So he was passed from Granlund, and Celebrini got an assist as well. Just the type of warrior that he is. It's one thing I didn't really expect the first couple of years he played for the Sharks. I did think he was another kind of a soft Swede, but he has like that instinct. He just doesn't give up. He'll fight back. People push him around. He'll push them back, even though he's a small guy. I really love the fight in this kid. And this goal really is the epitome of like what the kind of guy you can expect from how he is. Yes, he's a small dude. Yes, he's a fancy goal scorer, but he also does not take crap, and he will push back. So seeing that energy, to see the way he acted from that, it makes me look forward to these playoff runs when you need that kind of mental fortitude, and I do feel that he has that. So he made it 1-0 in the game. But then because of the result of that hit, he did go to the back of the room and he did not come back. So people thought it was a concussion spotter. No one really knew what it was. But since then, he has not returned. But it's quite a way to go out. If you're going to go get injured, before you get injured, to score 1-0 after getting hit and then still having to deal with that. So the Sharks would start the game up 1-0, but Vancouver will respond right away. Brock Besser would make it 1-1 off a deflection. And then basically they dominated the second period. Kiefer Sherwood would score based on a Barclay Goodrow mistake. And Elias Pettersson ended up scoring 2 quick goals as well. So another person who had a kind of a another Swedish guy, big game, was Elias Pettersson, who actually got hurt after he scored those 2 goals. But basically, he's had a big scoreless drought. I think it was 6 games. He had no points, and coming with two quick goals, especially all the stuff surrounding the Vancouver Canucks right now, it was a pretty big deal for them. Although it did hurt for him to be missing from the game as well. But there's just a lot of mistakes by the Sharks from these 3 goals that happened when they made it 3-1. It was 4-1 at that point after 2 periods. So just a lot of defensive breakdowns when they gave up 3 goals in just 1 minute 10 seconds. That was awful. Even Barclay Goodrow, like he said, there was missed opportunities to clear the puck, and that one with the Sherwood goal, he definitely made a mistake with the one there. Just a lot of problems with the situation. The Sharks did get a lot of penalties in this game, so they had basically the Vancouver Canucks had 5 power play advantages, so at chances, and they scored on 1 of them. So the Sharks gave them a lot of chances to do that, and their best players weren't on the ice to score the goals to help them win. So there's a lot of problems there. It's about 10 minutes. That's 1/6 of the game that you're down right there. So you can't really do that when it comes to the Sharks doing that, so that's a big problem. The Canucks did prove their special teams was very good. They were able to kill the Sharks 3 power play opportunities, 2 out of 3 of them, which wasn't too bad. The Sharks did get that 1 goal in the beginning of the game. But after that, the Sharks just really weren't mentally tough enough to continue to beat the Vancouver Canucks, especially being down 1 guy with Eklund. But they had no excuse because Pettersson was gone as well. So, the Sharks just need to focus on a little bit more on being consistent for this game, with the way they started with a lot of energy. It was a big game for Celebrini. Unfortunately, they did fail and not get the win for him. But Celebrini did look really good despite all that. He's a great 200-foot game. And, he had a good one there. The Canucks did need this confidence boost. They did get Quinn Hughes to get 2 assists as well. This game was something the Canucks should jump off of and actually get back to their winning ways. So the Sharks could have jumped on that, but unfortunately they didn't. I would say it's a lot of just mental mistakes, a lot of issues there. But the Sharks end up losing that game 4-3. That means the Vancouver Canucks are now 2-0 against the Sharks this season, with the Sharks losing on November 2nd and then again on December 23rd. They will see each other again in San Jose on February 6th. So up next is the Thursday game with Vegas visiting the San Jose Sharks, game number 35 on San Jose Sharks' schedule. It was a big return for Tomas Hertl, who actually Never played the Tanks since his trade in February. This was his first game back, so obviously there was a nice heartfelt video saying thank you, Hurdle, for all he's done. And hopefully we're trying to get in his head, for the Sharks trying to get into his head to try and make him, not play as well. Unfortunately, it didn't work out well for the Sharks, but at least it's a very emotional, nice video for us to see. And Hurdle making his return was kind of a nice big deal. Kind of a good reminder of how the Sharks are in this new era. We look back at the past, we appreciate the past and what happened. And, except for the last few years, the Hurdle was there for the bad years. But you remember the good times. And, just to remind us that we're moving forward with this new blood. And hopefully Hurdle, I wish him success minus anything to do with the Sharks being beaten by the Vegas Golden Knights. So, Hurdle's return was nice. And also another thing to note in this game was that Eklund was out from that upper body injury he retained from the game against Vancouver. And Jake Wellman was out for his second game in a row based on lower body injury he got from the Edmonton game. So, in this game, the Sharks did lose 6-3. It was a terrible collapse in the third period. It's another frustrating loss to add to the Sharks. They were playing pretty good hockey in the first two periods, but then that third period where they gave up 4 goals, 2 shorthanded goals in 23 seconds. So everything just did not go right for the Sharks in the third period, which is a consistent thing where the Sharks play very well in the second, but always seem to blow it or just not play well enough to get a lead or back or try and get a game-winning goal in the third period. So with the Sharks, Vegas showed their resilience and they capitalized on their opportunities. They're trailing 3-2 entering the third period, and the Sharks did have a lead, but Vegas ended up scoring those 4 goals, like I said, the 2 shorthanded ones and the 1 empty net goal. So really, 1 regular goal, and the Sharks could have prevented the other 3. Eichel did have a goal and assist, so he was another star that had a really good time during this game, with Mark Stone also doing very well, considering all the stuff he used to get. The flack from being injured and stuff like that. He's just a very valuable piece. Victor Olofsson had 2 assists, and Aiden Hill made 22 saves for the game. One big thing that did happen this game was Mac Madulin got his first career NHL goal. That was a nice little, heartfelt moment there. That was a game-tying goal passed by Zetterlund and Will Smith. Unfortunately, it would just not be enough to mean for anything because Mark Stone would score in the second period from Olofsson and Whitecloud. And then Smith and Toffoli would get the rest of the Sharks goals in the second period, and that would get them lead 3-2. Unfortunately, that would not help with the Sharks anyway, because of the third period. But so with Warsofsky, felt that the team stopped skating in the third period. There was a lack of focus there, and I would have to agree with that. Just the Sharks just did not really have anything in them. It could be that they're just tired from all this losing. They really have not had a good solid break. They have been at home for the last little while, but it seems like the Sharks have just don't have the mental fortitude just to go through a whole game, and the third period always seems to really hurt them. But Hurdle said that Vegas got back in their game. He showed mental fortitude and bounced back after the break. But another thing that hurt the Sharks, their injuries and their setbacks. The Sharks have had troubles finding consistency without Jake Wellman on the ice. That was a big loss for them. And, especially Eklund, the way he's been playing lately, they could have used him against Vegas for a big rival game. The Sharks do need to learn from these mistakes. Celebrini and Smith also played with Zetterlund this game for the first time. So this was the first shot we've had where Celebrini and Smith played together again. But also Zetterlund being on the line was freaking magical. During the first period, there was so many magical moments between those guys. It was very nice to see. But they didn't end up getting too many good finishes. So we'll have to see how the chemistry kind of builds out to see if Warsofsky keeps these 3 together. But they did look good getting up to that point. The Sharks were not very good defensively at all. They obviously gave those shorthanded goals up, and they shouldn't be doing that in the power play. Just something that they defensively, they don't always seem to turtle too much, or they never really they never have aggression to try and get the puck. They always kind of just hold back too much and then being burned by that. Especially a team like Vegas, they're just so fast moving the puck around, and you don't know who's going to end up scoring that goal either. There's no one sniper you're going to say, okay, focus on this guy, shut him down, they're not going to score. They have so many good goal scorers that potentially get goals for them that they can just roll around and just do whatever they need to do. So the Sharks would lose this game 6-3. Vegas is on I believe it's a 5 straight in the last 9 of their 10 games, so they're on a hot streak right now. But the really hurting stat is that Vegas is 13-0-3 all-time against San Jose. So the Sharks, we really have that one playoff game where he came back from that 3-goal deficit in the third period. Just a magical moment. Probably the Sharks, one of the best Sharks playoff games in history, or most memorable ones at least. But Vegas does have our number so far. So hopefully this will change as the Sharks get better. But unfortunately, the Sharks, the Vegas is 13-0-3 against the Sharks this whole time, and Vegas won the last game on October 26th, 7-3, and Vegas won again 6-3. So they seem to really dominate the Sharks by a lot of goals. They will have their final game. It'll be on January 7th in San Jose. Hopefully, San Jose Sharks will be awake for that one, and at least make this series, prevent the sweep, but maybe make this series kind of more commendable. The Vegas Golden Knights did outshoot the Sharks 36-25. The power plays they're 0 for 2, and the Sharks were 0 for 3. But the Sharks, obviously, giving up those 2 shorthanded goals were not very, very good. Yeah, it's the Vegas Golden Knights are just the better team here. But the Sharks should have showed up for a team that's supposedly a rival. Unfortunately, that was the case. But yeah, the Sharks will play them again on January 7th, which is very soon. So hopefully they'll remember this game. And that's the last time we'll probably see Vegas for a year, which is kind of nuts. All right, in the final game of the week, Calgary is visiting San Jose on Saturday night. The Sharks would lose this one 3-1, and their back-to-back games where they lost by more than 1 goal, which is the first time in a while, considering how well the Sharks have been doing this last month. I'd say the only other this month, the only other game they lost by more than 1 goal was Colorado on December 19th. Other than that, they've only lost by 1 goal every other time except these last 2 games. So Calgary, unfortunately, it was just a 2-goal loss, but that was a little bit rough. Although, if you really want to count it, that third goal was an empty netter for Calgary, so technically it was a 2-1 game. But anyways, let's digress into the game. So this one is the second game in a row Eklund would miss the game based on his injury, and Jake Wallman missed his third game in a row with that lower body injury. And Klim Kostin would return to the lineup after missing a few games, about 6 games he missed. So that was kind of a big deal, having that grit and that toughness, especially for a team like Calgary. Celebrini, by getting this goal, would actually lead all rookies with 12 goals in this game. And now he's going to compete against Matvei Vichkov, which is actually going to be the game on Tuesday, which will be fun and interesting to see, because now these two going head-to-head is going to really... It's probably going to be this choice between these two for the Calder Trophy. Connor Wolf is born from Gilroy, California. He's actually 30 miles away from San Jose, and he was in net for Calgary. So that was kind of a big deal for him just to play close to home. I'm sure he got a lot of tickets for his family there. And Grunstrom would leave the game in the first period after taking a big hit from Braden Pacal. And we have still not really much heard about what's happening with him. Hopefully he'll be back tomorrow, because he really does round out that fourth line, and the way he plays is exactly that fourth line hockey we love to see. So the Sharks, after losing this game 3-1, they extended their losing streak to 7 games. They're now 1-9-1 in their last 11 games. They couldn't capitalize on the big opportunities here. That was big to the heart of this game. They fell behind early to the Calgary Flames, and they just couldn't make that push. A rare kind of game for the Sharks, when usually they're the type of team that is always in it and always trying to push hard. Even when they lose, there's always just that you can't miss hockey. You can't turn off the game, because you just never know if they're going to tie it or go to the overtime. But unfortunately, this is one of those rare games where they don't do that. So Jonathan Huberdeau ended up scoring 2 goals for Calgary in this game. He scored the first one and then the empty netter to kind of just put it all the way home. He had a very, very good game. And Kadri and Backlund also had some good points there. Kadri had 2 assists, and Backlund got the power play goal to give the 2-1 lead for Calgary for this game. And Dustin Wolf had a great performance. He had 21 saves in front of his hometown, his fans and friends and family in the area. And the Sharks just basically couldn't figure this one out. They didn't have the legs for it, basically. Maybe it's just the post-Christmas holiday. I don't know, but maybe it's just the tough loss to Vegas, and they really tried to win there. They struggled with puck play, and they were soft in front of the net, according to Warsofsky. Celebrini did tie the game, at least when it was 1-1. He got that goal that made him gave him the lead for the rookie scoring, which is a big deal. But the Sharks just couldn't really put anything together. They did have a little bit of momentum in the third, but it was just too little too late. Just not quite the way the Sharks were playing the last little while. Calgary did capitalize on the power play with Backlund's goal. Sharks managed to score once with the Celebrini goal, and despite the strong third period, Sharks couldn't convert on several quality chances, reflecting the team's ongoing struggles, and they just couldn't finish their plays. So, the Sharks basically lost this one with they had completely outshot. Calgary just completely dominated this game from beginning to end. Both teams did have 1 power play goal, but Calgary had 3 opportunities and the Sharks only had 2. In terms of hits, Calgary did dominate that 19-16, and the block shots, Sharks had 17-15, and the giveaways were 12 for Calgary and 13 for the Sharks. And yeah, this was the first meeting of the Sharks, so the Sharks still have 3 more opportunities to catch up to Calgary and maybe kind of turn this series around. So Calgary wins 3-1. The next time they meet is on February 23rd in Calgary, and then the last 2 games will be in April, 1 in San Jose and 1 in Calgary. All right, taking a quick look at the San Jose Barracuda. They only played 2 games this past week. They won 5-2 against the Henderson Silver Knights, and they lost 5-2 on Sunday on the 29th. So this last weekend was kind of a give or take there against a rival, the Vegas Golden Knights baby team. But yeah, the San Jose Barracuda in their first game on the 28th, they basically won the game to make it 3-0 against the Silver Knights this season. At that point, Paul Doralski, the Patrick Kane of the AHL, scored twice. He helped to get the 3-0 lead to make sure the Sharks had the foot down on the gas pedal. Sabrin broke a 10-game goal drought when he scored backhand in his first period. And Carlson had 2 power play goals in the third, showing the Barracuda's strong special teams performance for 2 for 4 in that power play. And they were perfect 7 for 7 on the penalty kills. So really good in the special teams in that game. And the Barracuda outshot the Knights 43-24. Henderson did have a good moment where they had a strong play in the game. They had a bunch of shots, but fortunately, the Barracuda did hold on to it. The next game, though, when the Barracuda lost 5-2, they weren't as strong, obviously. Colin Graff and Gushchin did score for San Jose, so it's good to see Gushchin get back on the board. He's kind of hot. He's been hot for a little bit, then kind of cold for a bit, but he's back to being hot again. And Graff did go on a little bit of a cold streak where he was over a point a game, but now he's kind of back into it. The Barracuda got a couple of penalties and bad turnovers that on the blue line that led to one of the goals from Bowman. And despite a late push with Gushchin's goal to make it 4-2, McLean would respond with steal to win with Henderson, pushing the Barracuda to just their second 3-goal period allowed this season. So basically, the Barracuda dropped to 17, 10-0-2, and they're just trying to find more consistency where they were kind of that wagon status in the end of the year where they just kept dominating other teams. Now there's a lot of hot and cold seasons. They're not consistently bad, they're not consistently good, but they're kind of stumbling around, and they're just falling behind those Wranglers right now, where the Wranglers haven't moved at all. They stay with 41 points. They didn't even play any games, and the Barracuda had 2 games to play to kind of catch up, and unfortunately they only got 2 points out of the possible 4 points, so they're still 5 points behind the Calgary Wranglers right now, and they're 1 point comfortably ahead of the Colorado Eagles and the Ontario Reign right now. So they're not really they're not safe at second place right now, but I do still feel they're going to be a dominant team when it comes to the playoffs, and the Wranglers series, I'm telling you, that's going to be the one to watch this whole playoff. That Wranglers against the Barracuda is going to be a lot of fun. I'm definitely going to be watching that one. The top scorers for the Barracuda right now are Podoralski, so he's been on a hot streak the last couple of weeks. He's got 30 points in 29 games. He's got the most goals for the team with 12. He's, like I say, he's the Patrick Kane of the AHL. He's got a lot of championships. He's still a little bit older, but he can still put it away. He's a great guy to have around this team. He's first place. Colin Graff dropped the point a game status a couple of weeks ago. He's 26 points in 29 games, but he's second place there. Still a potential future stud. A lot of faith in him. He's just got to, continue to improve and see what he can do as the number 1 center for this Barracuda. And number 3, rounding out, Luca Cagnoni. It feels like it's been the top 3 guys this whole time. Cagnoni's got 22 points in 29 games. He's been kind of cold a little bit lately, but he got a couple of points this week as well. And Ethan Cardwell, who is steadily climbing for the Barracuda here. He's 4th place with 18 points in 21 games. Since he's played for the Sharks and come back, he's got this whole new confidence in his game. He's still that hardworking guy. In my opinion, he's like the Zach Hyman of the AHL right now. He works hard, he does all the right things, and he still manages to get some points up there. He doesn't score a lot of goals, but he still does seem to be around the positive side in terms of goals getting scored. And Beasted and Gushchin round out 5 and 6. They both each got 7 points. Beasted's got 17 points in 26 games. Gushchin's got 12 points in 20 games. Like I said, Gushchin's coming out of this whole cold streak right now. He's scoring a lot more goals than he was before. He's doing fairly well. And Bordelot is the top 8 in scoring right there with 12 points in 23 games. He's not the world beater we thought he was going to be when the Sharks first drafted him, but he's turning around to be an all-around kind of two-way player. He could be a Shark in the future. Who knows? I kind of think he's like a borderline right now, to be borderline, but still, he's got 12 points, 23 games. So he's doing okay, but not doing as well as you're kind of hoping to see. So that's your eye in the Barracuda. And let's move on to the scheduled win-loss. All right, we're in the scheduled win-loss segment. So the Sharks last week, they played Vancouver, they played Vegas, and they played the Calgary Flames. I predicted they would lose all three of their games, and I was right. I think I tried to say maybe they get a point somewhere around there. Unfortunately, they did not do that, although they kept it very close to Vancouver, and they ended up choking at the end. But, the Sharks got no points there. It's been a tough couple of weeks. They're playing just teams that are supposed to be in the playoffs here. The Sharks will get a break against a tough team on Tuesday when they play Philadelphia, and then they play Tampa Bay and New Jersey later this week. So that's 3 tough games right there. At least, fortunately, the Philadelphia game will be at 8 p.m., so it's a little bit earlier, but the other two, one's going to be at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time against Tampa Bay, and then 7 p.m. on Saturday against New Jersey, all Pacific time. So, the Sharks playing earlier games most of the time. And, it's 2 really good teams. I would say Tampa Bay's on the up right now. They've been pretty good all season, but they feel like they're on a hotter streak lately right now. So let's just take a look at let's look at Philadelphia first. Philadelphia, the Sharks play Philadelphia on Tuesday, and the Flyers are actually 5th waiting for the wild card spot. So they're nowhere near stiff in the playoffs. They're still a few points behind the wild card, behind Ottawa Senators. 16 wins, 17 losses. They're 4-6 in their last 10. Their top point scorer is Travis Konechny, so their new captain. He's got 41 points in 37 games. He's still very hot. Matvei Michkov, who has 29 points in 35 games, he's doing fairly well. He had a really hot start for the rookie race, and then kind of cooled down as soon as Celebrini came in, and now Celebrini's kind of taken over that rank. But Matvei Michkov is the type of guy. He's very deceptive, very fast, very skilled. You can't take him too lightly. So the Sharks did play Philadelphia this season on November 11th. They did lose 4-3. So the Sharks, this is around the time the Sharks are kind of turning things around. And the Philadelphia Flyers were considered a bad team at the time, but they're still a little bit better than they are now. So just based on that fact that they were in San Jose, the Sharks are on a big losing streak. They've had 2 days off to kind of think about their ways. I'm not even sure if Eklund's going to be back or Wallman's going to be back. I'm going to go on a limb here and say that it's going to be a win. The Sharks need this win because this will be the only team that they're capable of, they know they can at least try to beat. So this is a team that they should show up for this game, and I think they're actually going to win this one against Philadelphia just to make it. It might be a 1-goal game, it might be a 2-goal game, but it's not going to be like a crazy goal-scoring fest, I don't think. But I'm picking the Sharks to win this one. All right, against Tampa Bay on Thursday, the Tampa Bay Lightning, like I said, they're a very, very good team. In terms of where they are right now, they're in the first wild card spot with 42 points in 20 games, and I would look out for the Atlantic Division. They can climb up any time. They're on a 1-game losing streak so far. That's not a big deal. In their last 10, they're 7-3, and they have 134 goals for, 97 goals against. And the Tampa Bay Lightning beat the Sharks, like the doors off the Sharks on December 5th, 8-1. Tampa Bay is just that hot team. They know exactly how to win. Their top scorers are Kucherov, surprise, surprise, first place, 54 points in 32 games played, 17 goals, 37 assists. He's got more assists than games played. This guy's a beast. So that's the one guy you have to learn how to shut down. But then you got to worry about other people like Braden Point, second place, with 43 points in 30 games as well. He's the goal scorer for the team. He's got 23 goals, leading his team in goals. And Brandon Hagel, who's been top 3, so he's the kind of guy who's been kind of criticized for the type of the way that the Tampa Bay got him, the way what they paid to get him from Chicago, and on top of that, what they paid him afterwards in his contract. A lot of people kind of judge Tampa Bay for that, but it turns out it wasn't that bad a gamble because he's over a point a game right now with 41 points in 31 games. And top 4, rounding it out, is Jake Gensel with 37 points in 33 games. Another guy that people were unknown about because they kind of decided Gensel over Stamkos. Turns out that gamble so far was right. And he's been a solid contributor, second in goals for the team with 20. And top 5, rounding that out, is Anthony Cirelli with 32 points in 33 games, just below a point a game. Solid number 2 center for this team. Just a tough guy to play against. He's on the penalty kill, and he's also getting points this year. This Tampa Bay team is honestly very dangerous. They could contend for a cup. Just looking at what they have, all they need to do is Vasilevsky to be hot right now, and he can do it. So, rounding out top 6, I just want to mention Victor Hedman as well. 28 points in 32 games. he's like that all-around defenseman. He's like, what Jake Wellman is to the Sharks, where he can do everything for the team, but obviously in that elite level that the Jake Wellman isn't quite at. But yeah, Victor Hedman's all-around defenseman, but also plays very good defensively. And the fact that he's got a .88 points per game streak for the season, that's pretty good for them. So the Sharks obviously are going to have their hands full with this team. It's in Toronto, or it's in San Jose, so that's one thing the Sharks do have the advantage for. But I'm just looking at their last 10 games. Like I said, the Tampa Bay Lightning are 7-3, and they beat teams like the Rangers, the Panthers during this 10 games, and they've beaten some easy teams too, like Columbus and Seattle. But they've beaten some really, really good teams. They did lose to Montreal, which is actually an easy team the last game they played, but I would not really put anything against Tampa. I think Tampa is just capable of winning this game. I'm going to say scheduled loss for the Sharks there. And the New Jersey game, which is on January 4th on Saturday, that is the final game of the season between these two teams. So New Jersey actually lost the first game. Sharks managed to make a defensive game and win 1-0 on November 10th. So that was kind of a big deal because New Jersey is a very good team. They figured it out. In their last 10, they're 6-3-1, and they've beaten teams like Carolina, New York. They've beaten the Chicago Blackhawks and St. Louis against easier teams. But the last 3 games, they've beaten Carolina once and New York once. They did lose Carolina the other time, but they're a hot team right now, and they're cooking. So I believe there's a crazy streak they had where they don't allow, I think it was less than 30 shots all season or something like that. They've only allowed less than 30 shots, so they're just a really good team to worry about. I would say the Sharks are probably going to lose this one. It's an afternoon game, and the New Jersey they're on a hot streak, like I said. Jesper Bratt leads the team in points, 47 in 39 games. Jack Hughes is second with 46 in 39 games, so he's just right behind Bratt. Heischer has 34 points in 39 games. Meyer, our old beloved San Jose Shark, has 27 points in 38 games. That contract they have hasn't really lived up to it so far, but he's still doing a pretty decent job, getting 27 points in 38 games. He's probably going to be about 69, 70-point player so far, unless he goes on a hot streak. Stefan Nason, who's been a surprise this season with 26 points in 39 games. He has 16 goals, which is very wild, considering he was a former Shark. He's just known to be a kind of a fighter. And they're rounding out the top 6 is Dougie Hamilton with 24 points in 39 games. He's, again, that Jake Wellman type of defenseman. He does everything right all around. He's the type of guy you want as your cornerstone defenseman for the team. He's out in important situations. He can score. He can defend. He does a little bit of everything. He's more of a goal scorer, but he's having a very good year as well. And just to pick this one, obviously, I'm going to have to say the Sharks are going to lose this one because, New Jersey's hot right now. Even though they're in San Jose all week, the Sharks should be due for another win. I think that's going to be against Philly. That's the obvious one for me. Although we all know that hockey's a weird sport, and for all we know, somehow San Jose might beat the doors off of Tampa Bay 7-0. But you'd hope that the San Jose Sharks are going to wake up for all these games. They can't continue this losing streak. I know they're a team that's not supposed to be competing for a cup, but they should still be showing signs that they know how to win, and they should be improving on that. So that's still the one thing they got to figure out. So when they do play Philly, at least they'll have that practice against a team that's, probably it's honestly the worst team in terms of standings that they face since, I don't even know, maybe Utah, even that, St. Louis and Utah. This is the team the farthest below the standings in a very long time. So the Sharks should take advantage of that and, just show what they're capable of, because Philly's not in any condition to beat the doors off of the Sharks. So hopefully we'll see that happen, and then maybe some surprises against New Jersey and Tampa. But for right now, I'm picking the Sharks going to beat Philadelphia, lose to Tampa, and lose to Jersey, netting a 2-point week. Anything more than 2 points is a win in my book. You know how that is. If they get 3 points or 4 points, that's a win. If they get all 6 points, super big bonus. But I have a feeling the Sharks are going to have another struggle this week. So we'll have to see what happens there. Well, that's going to do it for another episode of the Teal Teardown Hockey Podcast. That marks number 10 for the show. I want to appreciate you for listening. If you have listened to the end, or if you've listened before, I just wanted to say thank you. If this is the first time, thank you again just for listening. I appreciate everything you do. You can find me on Instagram at Teal Teardown Hockey, and on X at Teal Teardown HKY as well. You can see me there for any updates or little memes I'll post there, and little just updates of what's going on each game. And you can also see me on any place you listen to your podcast. I'll be there as well. If you like the show, leave a comment or leave a like. It helps with the algorithm. And that's it for me. Number 10's in the books, and I thank you all, and I'll see you next week.